Hello! Today I'm going to be discussing my favorite books of 2020. I had like a list of all of my favorites of 2020, but that felt a little boring, and I also am really unable to like rank books. I find that really difficult. So in the beginning of this year, Kat from Paperback Dreams I believe she did a video on books, the winners of the Epic Reads Shimmy Awards. The awards given out to best books of the year, and I think they're all YA genre, and it's by Epic Reads, and she basically discussed like her thoughts on the winners. And so I was looking at the categories and I realized like I can pick favorites based on these categories that they give awards to, so that's what I'm gonna do. That's how I'm going to share my favorite books of the year, just like by picking books that fit the categories. Not all of these are going to be YA though, and these are not just, so my picks aren't just going to be books that were nominated for these awards or books that actually came out in 2020, because that's what these awards are for. They're just going to be books that I read in 2020 that I think fit these categories for me as my preferences and my best books of 2020. So let's get started. The first award is Best of Shelf award, given to the overall best book of the year. This was very hard for me to decide, but I think I'm still gonna go with Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall. It is a fake dating book about a son of two famous rock stars who enlists the help of a barrister to act as his fake boyfriend to sort of help his image in the press and in the public. And it was the funniest book I've ever read. The characters were amazing, the side characters were fantastic, and I loved it so much. It was heartwarming, everything was there, and it was so enjoyable. So overall, that was my favorite book, I think, of 2020. And that actually did come out in 2020. Next award is Cover Lust, award given to the YA book with the most gorgeous cover design. This one I chose, oh my god. This one I chose Felix Ever After by Case and Calendar. I'm just like, look at this cover. It is so beautiful. I love the artwork. I love that it fits the theme of the book and how he's an artist and his like self-portrait at the end and like this whole thing. I just love it. I love that they show his scars from his surgery. I just love the colors. I think it's beautiful. I think he's gorgeous. This is just such a beautiful cover. I love it so much. The next award is All by My Shelf. Love a good pun. Best standalone novel. For this, I chose Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. I know this came out in 2018. I just read it last month, and I still haven't stopped thinking about it. It is a standalone. It is Delia Owens' debut novel, and it is just the best book ever. It absolutely blew me away, and I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. It's about a girl who grows up basically alone in this marsh, and then when she's about like 20 something, or early 20s, she is arrested and tried for the murder of a local man who she knew, and it is just everything. Okay, number 4 is Group Chat, book you couldn't stop texting your group chat about. Does this count? I'm gonna choose One of Us Is Next by Karen McManus. My group chat is my mother, and our group chat is us going on our daily walk and listening to this as we were walking and listening to the audiobook, and both of us just like having to stop it every 4 seconds to be like, oh my god, what do you think, blah 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 blah, and we couldn't stop talking about it before and after. We had so many theories. It is a sequel / companion novel to One of Us Is Lying, which was this YA mystery thriller that's basically like Breakfast Club if one of them had been murdered or died in the middle of detention. My mom and I would not stop talking about it, and the second book follows the sister as the main character of one of the main characters from the first book, and it's about like a text messaging truth or dare type thing that has come up in the school, and a student does die. So many twists and turns and mysteries going on and lots of different perspectives, so we could not shut up about it. Next question / award / category is We Need Diverse Books, given to the best YA book of 2020 that explores the diverse experiences, including but not limited to LGBTQIA, people of color, gender diversity, people with disabilities, and ethnic, cultural, and religious minorities. So for this one, I've chosen Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. The main character is gay and transgender, and there are other queer characters within the book. Aiden Thomas does an amazing job at creating this story, and because it is an own voices novel, they really give fantastic diversity, representation, and discussion, not just having diversity for diversity's sake, but you can tell that they're really trying to share their story, and there's a fantastical element to it, but the heart of the story is the characters and the real life issues that they're facing, and the magic is just an amazing plot and a way to drive the story forward. But the diverse experiences that it explores and how they do it is just fantastic, and I thought it was an incredible book that taught me a lot about a lot of different groups and about a lot of different issues. Okay, the next category is Heartstopper, a book that had the biggest plot twist that made you gasp. I could not choose only one for this. I read a lot of thrillers, they're like my favorite genre. So the first one is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. I don't think I've talked about that on my channel yet, but it was an amazing mystery. It is a YA book. A few years later, a girl from her school was kidnapped and the body still has not been found. The girl's boyfriend, the one who was kidnapped, he was basically assumed as the murderer and he ends up killing himself. And so a few years later, you have this girl who is really into true crime, and she just believes that there's more to the story, and she doesn't believe that this boy, Sal, would have, she knew him and she knew his brother, and she just doesn't believe that he would have committed that act. And so she sets off to like sort of figure out the real truth, and the plot twists are absolutely insane and it's so good. I also chose One of Us Is Next for this because the plot twists in that were fantastic. My mom and I literally gasped at the end. And then finally for this category, The Hand on the Wall by Maureen Johnson. This is the last book in the Truly Devious series about boarding school murders and a girl named Stevie who goes to a boarding school that is made for people with special interests and passions, and her goal is to solve the mystery of this basically almost 100-year-old mystery from back in the day at this boarding school with the creator of the boarding school. And it is just so crazy. There's so many other mysteries that come up in the first book. This is the finale of this series, and you finally get answers throughout the books, but for the main mystery, everything comes together in the end. There's so much happening, and the conclusion is just so fantastic and so satisfying, and the plot twists are phenomenal. Okay, number 7, Reality Bites, Best Sci-Fi or Fantasy Novel. For this one, I chose Serpent and Dove by Shelby Mahurin. I've talked about this a lot, so I won't really go into it, but it's about a witch hunter who have to get married. It's magic, witches, fantasy, and it was probably my favorite fantasy novel of the year. Okay, number 8, Hot Under the Covers, given to the sweetest, steamiest, or best romance. I have 2 for this one too. For just the sweetest and the romance that just put me in my feels was Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. It is a male teen romance. It is the cutest thing on God's green earth. And then the steamiest, or what I would say is like the best romance, I have given to the Bromance Book Club by Alyssa K. Adams, and I'm giving an honorable mention to the sequel because they're sort of on the same tier for me as like 2 amazing romances, but the steaminess is top tier, and the romances I got so into. The characters are phenomenal. The premise is basically like there's a book club in Texas. Where is it set in Texas? It's in Tennessee. It might be Nashville, but it is a like club of a bunch of male friends who are like big prominent guys, like professional athletes, business owners, etc. And they basically just like, their goal is to defeat toxic masculinity, and they just read these romance novels and help give each other romantic advice. And so the first book follows one of the men and his wife, and then the second book follows 2 different characters from the first book, and they're just so good. It's hilarious and heartwarming and steamy, and it is an amazing romance series if you're looking for one. I'm reading the 3rd one right now that I'm not liking as much, but I'll talk about it in my December wrap-up. Number 9, Mental Health Matters, best book that shines a light on mental health. For this one, I've chosen the Truly Devious series again, just because I think it deals with the description of anxiety so extremely well. As someone that suffers from it, I really appreciated the depiction of this. Stevie does experience anxiety and panic attacks. She's medicated. I love the description of how she uses her medication. Like, I just feel like I don't see that a lot, especially in YA, so I really, really appreciate it in that. It's not just something they throw in the beginning, like, oh, she's quirky, she has anxiety. They really delve into it, especially in this last book, and I really, really appreciated that. I love how they did it, and it made me really relate to Stevie on so many different levels. Okay, the next award is Maniacal Laughter, a book with the best villain of 2020. In my opinion, I'm gonna say Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. I'm not telling you who the villain is or who you think is the villain, because it's kind of up to interpretation, but I loved what I believe is the villain in this book, and they did a great job, and I loved their perspective. I loved hearing about their motivations, how crazy I think they may be, and they're just so evil. I love it, which is interesting in a non-fantasy book. I thought this was an interesting pick, because it's not like your typical fantasy villain. Gone Girl is an adult thriller about a married couple that blows up, and the wife, disappears, and it's about the husband being accused of her murder or her abduction, and insane things happen. Okay, next is Under the Radar, award for most underrated or quiet YA book of the year. I've chosen 2 for this as well because I couldn't pick. Crying Laughing by Lance Rubin. I think I talked about it in like one of my first videos. I didn't hear anyone talking about this book, and I thought it was so good. It's about a girl whose dad is just been diagnosed with ALS, and she and her dad share a love of comedy, and they always have, and so she joins the improv comedy troupe at her school, and it is so hilarious and so heartwarming, and I cried at the end, and I just don't know why no one was talking about that. Maybe because the cover was so ugly, and it looked very childish, but the actual themes in it were not that young. And the next book is Layover Land by Gabby Noon. I also didn't hear many people talking about this, and I thought it was so good. It's about a girl who dies, and she is taken to purgatory, which is basically in this world, like, well, supposedly in our world, an airport, and she is tasked with having to help souls who just died, like, pass on to find peace. But one of her first assignments is this guy who is like her age and super cute, but he also might have been the one that killed her. So it's pretty crazy. It is hilarious and thought-provoking and so fast-paced and fun, and I just don't know why no one was talking about it. The next award is called Have Here and Now, given to the best contemporary. I've chosen Beach Read by Emily Henry. This is an adult fiction about 2 writers who find themselves as neighbors in this beach town during the summer. They're both dealing with writer's block, and they meet, and they basically task the other, or like dare the other to write in the other person's genre. So the woman is a romance writer, and the man is like a thriller, literary fiction writer, and they take each other on like little adventures to sort of get each other in the different genre mindset. And it's a romance, but it's so deep and deals with a lot of hard issues, and I just loved it. I thought it was an amazing, amazing book, and probably definitely the best contemporary I read this year. Okay, 13, World Series Champ, award for your favorite new, ongoing, or concluding series in 2020. As per usual, I cannot pick one because so many books that I read this year came out with new ones or were finishing. So ones that finished were Imagine Me, the Shatter Me series, and Hand on the Wall, Truly Devious, and those conclusions were amazing. And then Serpent and Dove was my new favorite series this year, and the sequel came out this year, and that was amazing, and so I put those all in that category. Similar to the next one, which is Squad Goals, award for your given to the best group cast, that I can't pick as either because I think I choose books with fantastic ensemble casts. I think that's also what I like in TV shows most, and so it makes sense that I gravitate to books like that. Like, if there's a strong cast of characters, it's probably going to be a favorite of mine. And so I chose Blood and Honey because that came out this year, and it was the sequel to Serpent and Dove, and the friend group in that just like kicks butt the whole time, and I love them. I chose Imagine Me Again, the last book in the Shatter Me series, just because I've been with that group for so long, and They mean so much to me, and I loved seeing them have their like last final hurrah. And then the Renegade series by Marissa Meyer, I read all 3 this year, and the friend group in that are a bunch of superheroes, and they're kick-ass, and they're so funny, and I love them so much. I loved reading about their friend group. It was fantastic. Okay, the next is most anticipated, award given to the book you're most excited to read in 2021. This was really hard because I have many that I'm looking forward to reading, but my most anticipated release is One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. It is going to be her second sophomore novel. She is the author of Red, White, and Royal Blue, which was my favorite read of 2019. And this is going to be a lesbian romance, so I am so excited. I'm expecting it to be hilarious and cute as Red, White, and Royal Blue was, and I just cannot wait to read this. I think she was my new favorite author of 2019, so I'm so excited to see what she has in store for One Last Stop. The cover is gorgeous, so I'm expecting it to be a good book. I do judge books by the cover, and I am not ashamed to say so. Mine is Crying Laughing, because the cover was terrible, but it was an amazing book, so. And the last book, Page Master, award given to your favorite YA author to publish a novel in 2020. I think I'm going to go with Shelby Mahurin for this. She's my new favorite author, YA author. She released Blood and Honey in 2020 and I loved it. I follow her on like all of her social media and she's funny and awesome. And so yeah. Those were all of my favorite reads of 2020 featuring the Epic Reads Shimmy Award categories. Once again, not all of these were YA and not all of them were released in 2020. These are just ones that I read and that I loved in 2020. Let me know what your favorite book of 2020 was. Thank you for watching and I can't wait to start reading for 2021.